My name is Alan Rowland, and I want to tell you a fascinating story, and it's a true story too. It took place in Walker County, Alabama. I'll show it to you on the map in just a few minutes here. It was a story that took place in 1920 and 1921, and it deals with a coal strike. Now, this coal strike is going to capture just about all of the county. A number of people will be involved with this. A number of people will be injured or lose their lives. But let me tell you a little bit about coal. Most of you know what it is anyway, but coal was the lifeblood of Walker County. And not today, but it was in earlier times. And in fact, many people in Walker County were associated with the coal industry. I never worked with coal. I just never had an interest with that. My brother was a coal miner with Cobb Coal Company, with Drummond Coal Company. My father served on the Alabama State Reclamation Commission. So we have a tradition of having many of my family members and many of my fellow Walker Countyans being part of this too. Now, if we travel through Walker County today, you'll see the evidence of these mines. And I want to clarify to you, for those of you that don't understand this, we have two types of mines. You have underground mining and you have surface mining. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is primarily that of underground mining. Now, when you drive through the county today, you're not going to see very much in the way of surface mining. You can see the evidence of it. Most of it's been reclaimed. Some of it has anyway. Much of it is covered over in kudzu and other secondary growth. So it may be a little bit difficult to identify with that. Today, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for some people with their views, the coal mining industry in Walker County is largely dissolved. There's very little of it today, and in the surrounding counties too. A little bit in Jefferson County, a little bit in Tuscaloosa County. This is primarily due to government regulation. That's federal regulation that took place in 2009. And of course, it just put literally a stop to this too. All right, now let me show you the title of this presentation. And here it is. We're going to call this the coal strike in 1920, 1921, Walker County, Alabama. I'll share a couple of quotations with you. This is a French quotation. Ils ne passeront pas. They shall not pass. They shall not pass. And I think it's very appropriate in considering this with all the strikes that we're going to have from this period of time. And by the way, this quotation is an inscription that's placed on a monument at the World War I battlefield, the 1916 battlefield in France, which is called the Battle of Verdun. Verdun. They shall not pass. And I like this Shakespeare quotation. I located this a couple of days ago. It's out of As You Like It. It's by Rosalind. Oh, how full of briars is this working day world. And I think you'll find that appropriate as we go through this. All right, now here's Walker County. Also the state of Alabama, you'll recognize that. It gives you the location of Walker County, and you can see this located up here in the north, somewhat western central part of the state. A rather large county of Alabama's 63 counties. And as we go into the presentation, I want you to take a look here, please, at this dramatis personae. This is the cast that's going to make up this presentation. And I'll just go through very patiently here, and we'll read through some of these. You can see James Cain. James Cain is a person who is given credit for being the first to discover coal in Walker County. This was done so probably in the 1830s. Walker County was founded by John W. Walker in 1823, so it was after that period of time. But James Cain founded his first coal mine. We don't know exactly where it was, probably between the areas of where Corona is located today, where Townley is located, on Cane Creek, Lost Creek, in that area. Another important figure, and we won't talk too much about John L. Lewis, but he was the president of the United Mine Workers Association in the 1920s. Another interesting individual here is Will Hicks. Will Hicks, who was a union coal miner. And let me just go ahead and explain this for just a second here. The difference between union and non-union. Union coal mining, this is an organization of coal miners. They will often advocate shorter working hours, higher wages, safer working conditions. They're unionized. They pay union dues, and the union tries to protect them. They're often very prone to strike. And then we have other workers, which are non-union miners. Now, these non-union miners, as the name implies, are not a member of the union. They don't have the benefits that the union has. you generally are a little bit less prone to go on strike. But there's a lot of clashing rivalry that will take place between these two groups of union miners and non-union miners, particularly with union miners trying to literally force non-union miners to join the union. And if they don't, they'll cause problems with them, cause strikes there, violence to take place there. Our history is full of this too. All right, so let's go back to our dramatis personae, see some of the other individuals. All right, we talked about Will Hicks, Union coal miner, Carbon Hill, and Deputy Sheriff Bill Barrett, who was killed by Will Hicks. More on that shortly. J. Oliver McDade from Carbon Hill, who was likewise killed by Will Hicks. Another important figure here is Leon Adler, who was the general manager of the Corona Coal Company. He was killed at Patton Junction. Deputy Sheriff, Corona Deputy Sheriff Earl Edgell, killed at Patton Junction. We won't talk about him today because this will be presented in a couple of parts anyway. But the next presentation will address Adrian Northcutt, who was killed by Private James Morris. Private James Morris himself, who lost his life. He was an Alabama National Guardsman. He was killed by striking workers. We'll get to a different presentation here about Willie Baird. Willie Baird, who was lynched by the Alabama National Guard. Sheriff Claude Guttery, who was the sheriff of Walker County. Leslie West, of all things, he was a taxi driver for Holly Grove, or maybe it was Townley, not really sure. And then we have Governor Thomas Kilby. Kilby Prison, who was the governor of Alabama, and we could not leave this without giving credit to our amazing supporting staff, the Alabama National Guard. All right, now looking back at Walker County, and this is what it looks like here. And I want to point out a couple of significant areas because mining camps would form in almost all these areas with the exception of Jasper. Jasper is the county seat. You can see where it is located here. We knew we'd had very little mining take place there. Going to the northern part of the county, here's Nauvoo. We'll reference that in a later presentation. Here's Carbon Hill over in the western part of the county. Holly Grove and Townley, which are just not very far away from each other. And we have here Coal Valley. If you go there today, you know, it's just desolate. There's not even any electricity in much of that area. Here's Mountain Valley, which is on Highway 69 towards Oakman, high above Coal Valley. Here's Corona, present here. Oakman here. These coal mining communities will take place around Oakman. And notice here's Patton Junction. I did not have enough room on my map to put Patton in there. They're two separate places, about a mile, 1.1 miles apart from each other. But Patton would be in this location. We'd had Patton Junction about in this location there. We go over towards the eastern part of the county. Here's Cordova. We have Dora. We have Empire. This present there. We'll come back to this map in just a few minutes here. And I would also like to show some photographs of that period of time that we're talking about. And actually this photograph, which was at Indian Hill Mills, taken around 1900. This is an underground mine. You can see the entrance to it here. Here's another photograph showing you the Bankhead mines. All of these are around 1910, something on that order anyway. Another photograph here. Not really sure where this is. I think this is Bankhead Mines here. Just an old photograph over 100 years ago. Here's another photograph here showing you a mining camp, which is in Empire. And Empire, you can go there today if you wish to do so. Just a small little hamlet. Often seen photograph of a coal miner about the 1820s, such as that. I invite you, if you get a chance, to go to the Coal Mining Museum, which is present in Dora, Alabama. It's somewhat interesting, if you wish to do so. And another photograph of miners of that period here. Around, I would guess this photograph is probably around 1910, not real sure about that. And another photograph showing you, well, this was a mining camp which was found in Empire. All right. If you ever heard your grandparents or great-grandparents talk about Old Engine 29, this was a very famous, very well-known steam engine that would haul the coal. Now I want to show you something else here as we go through these photographs. But if you look at the map of Walker County. At first, in the 1830s, we did not have railroads. So from 1835 to 1839, the primary means to transport coal was by the Warrior River. Now, the Warrior River, which flowed roughly down in this direction here, and then would go down the Jefferson County line here, and this would be the means to transport coal, and you transport that coal and cotton also down to areas such as Tuscaloosa, Demopolis, or Mobile. But in the 1880s, 1884, I believe it was anyway, railroads began to be established in Walker County. You had a railroad that ran through this direction here, east to west, west to east, going through here, just like that. And we had another railroad that would pass through this area here. And so with that in mind, then this will now serve as the principal means, to transport coal is by the railroads there. Okay, now I want to tell you also that we're going to see some rivalries to take place, and I've already mentioned between union and non-union workers, but we also have these rivalries to take place between black coal miners and white coal miners, and you've got to realize that this is a period in American history, Alabama history, when we had many immigrants coming into this country, and for many of these immigrants coming from Italy or some of the Slovakia countries there, Slovak countries, this would also create a lot of rivalries between whites and blacks and also these European coal miners here. So much violence would take place. We'll go back to our map here, Walker County, so we'll have something to reference with. All right. Now, a number of coal strikes took place, and these strikes took place over higher wages, reduced working hours, fewer working days. One of the significant ones was 1880, which took place at the Cookton strike. 1882, the Patton Mine strike, which take place down here at Patton, in the area of Patton Junction. 1887, 1889, strikes took place in Corona. Today, if you pass through Corona, you'll hardly even note that it's a community. By 1894, we had a nationwide coal strike that was associated with the formation of the United Mine Workers Association. By late 1819, John L. Lewis, the person I pointed out to you a few minutes ago, he became the acting president of the United Mine Workers Association, would be the president with the union for a long period of time here. And he called for a strike for a shorter working week, higher wages, and 400,000 workers walked off the job in 25 states here. So President Woodrow Wilson, called for a meeting. He tried to level things out anyway, and he got the strikes to end on the condition that a special commission would be established to come up with what they felt would be an adequate amount of wage increase for these strikers. And so it put a temporary stop to this. On the other hand, we'll find that the special commission ended up recommending a 27% wage increase, which union workers were not very pleased with this whatsoever. So the president of District 20 union members, who was J.R. Kinnemer at that time, called a meeting with all these mining camps, representatives from these mining camps. They met at the courthouse in Jasper, Alabama, in the circuit room there to try to resolve this. And so anyway, and I think what I'm going to do right here is stop this presentation momentarily. We'll pick up with part 2 of this. I only have 15 minutes of recording time, so we'll stop it right here, and we'll pick this up very shortly. Okay.